Hey guys, welcome to That Florida Feeling. How is everybody? I hope everybody's had a good week. It's finally warm again. We are so grateful for that. Thanks for checking out all the social media sites. You guys are amazing. And for the YouTube, my YouTube's kind of blowing up, so thanks guys. A lot of people are figuring out that the podcast is on there. I think it's actually easier to listen to. You can just kind of put it on in the background along with your YouTube stuff. It's got its own playlist. It's really nice. So thank you for that. And TikTok's still around. So yeah, there's always that. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna do lives anymore on TikTok. We'll figure it out eventually. Still doing the Facebook and Instagrams. The memes on Facebook are hilarious as always. If you want to say hi, just say hi. I love hearing from you guys. Suggestions for episodes, as always, are appreciated. I got some really good stuff coming up. I got some interviews. I got some good topics. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about the humanity of Orange Park. Florida's full of so many different things that it's always fun finding those random topics and talking about them. I know that some of you guys, as well as myself, are into those weird parts of Florida. But today we're going to talk about a little part of Florida. Very, very little part. I mean, tiny. Very tiny. With a really, really interesting name. And some of you've probably heard about it. If you've heard about it, it's probably because a hurricane was going near it. I'm going to talk about Apalachicola. Apalachicola is a city and the county seat of Franklin County, Florida. And it's on the shores of Apalachicola Bay. It's an inlet in the Gulf of Mexico, or America, or whatever we're calling this body of water now. And it's small. I mean, it's got a population of less than 2,500. But it's got a huge history. I mean, this part of Florida has had a history for a long time. The Apalachicola province, after the river and the city and the area, is located, and it's in the lower part of the Chattahoochee River, which is, it was really part of Alabama and Georgia in the 17th century. And this is when the Spanish was around. So we're talking 1600s, a long time ago. And then this is when the Spanish were kind of building the maps and drawing it and figuring out where everything was. And they included the Chattahoochee as part of the Apalachicola River. Because, of course, there was no Google Earth. You couldn't look above. You were just kind of walking and viewing and drawing. And so they named it. And the name is kind of a combination of the Hittite words Appalachie, meaning on the other side, and Oakley, meaning people, in the original reference to the settlement that was there. So it probably meant people on the other side of the river. So Apalachicola. But these people that were settled there have been there for years, way before the Spanish. In fact, the Spanish have been in Florida, as we know, for a long time. And between the years of 1513 to 1763, the area that now includes the city of Apalachicola, and that whole area was under Spanish jurisdiction as part of Spanish Florida. And the Spanish did establish missions through the Apalachicola region, and they did meet with the Apalachee people to the northeast of the city of Apalachicola, because Appalachia sits directly on the bay. And if you're trying to figure out what's north of it, think Tallahassee. So they met with the Apalachee people and the Chautauqua people to the north in the Apalachicola River Valley and the Chippewa River Valley. Lots of words that I'm attempting to say, guys. The Spanish did not actually establish any missions directly in Apalachicola. They didn't go for the lower Apalachicola River during the first occupation of Florida. The earliest known settlement by the non-indigenous people was 1705, when the Spanish actually built a fort in the area. During the 1750s, during the French and Indian War, the British actually captured the Spanish colony of Cuba. But, however, because Cuba was a prized possession for Spain, and they viewed Florida as a unused backwater, horrible territory that they couldn't conquer, really. Because if you think about it, when Spain was in Florida, they were either in St. Augustine or Pensacola. they gave it to the British. They wanted Cuba back, and they saw Florida as an unused territory. And so, yeah, now Britain is over this new Florida, and now British was over the Apalachicola part. So now between 1763 and 1783, so for 20 years, Apalachicola now was under the jurisdiction of British West Florida. And the British actually put a trading post called Cottonton at the mouth of the Apalachicola River. So there's finally some use for this area. And in 1783, British West Florida went back to Spain, but the trading post and its British inhabitants actually stayed there, and they kept trading. This was now useful. This has grown. And they kept continuing to trade along the Apalachicola River, which was connected by the trading network through the Chattahoochee River. Of course, eventually we know that Florida went to the United States, and, you know, eventually other states grew. We have Alabama and Georgia. And then, of course, as the United States developed, settlers came into Florida. And in 1927, the town was actually incorporated as West Point. So Apalachicola actually started as West Point. But it did receive its actual name in 1831, only a few years later, as Apalachicola. And this was actually enacted by the Legislative Council of the Territory of Florida. Because remember, Florida didn't get its statehood yet. And in this town, we're going to call it a town loosely, the Trinity Episcopal Church was actually incorporated by an act of the Legislative Council of the Territory of Florida on February 11th, 1837. And the building was one of the very earliest prefabricated buildings in the United States. The framework was actually shipped over by a schooner, from New York City and assembled in Apalachicola with wooden pegs. So basically, the prefabricated building means that parts were already built. So basically, prefabrication is a practice of assembling parts of a structure in a factory, sending it to a place, and putting those parts together. So what's cool about this Trinity Episcopal Church that is that it was technically prefabricated, and it was one of the first, and it was assembled in Apalachicola back in 1837. In 1837, a newspaper at Apalachicola actually boasted that the town's businesses street along the waterfront had 2,000 feet of continuous brick stores, 3 stories high, and 80 feet deep, all equipped with granite pillars. So it sounds like it's a booming little town for 1837, which is kind of impressive. Botanist Alvin, I'm going to say it's Alvin. Never seen it spelled that way. Alvin Wentworth Chapman settled in Apalachicola in 1847, and in 1860 he published his major work, Flora of the Southern United States. So he basically lived in Florida, studied it, and then published a book on it. An elementary school was even named in his honor. Of course, in the 1860s, we had the Civil War, and the Civil War came to Florida. On April 3rd, 1862, during the Civil War, the gunboat USS Sagamore and the steamer USS Merced, I don't even know how to say it. Hold on. Merced? Whatever. There was another steamer that was actually relieving the USS Marion, was actually captured Apalachicola. So there was actually a battle for Apalachicola. The Union forces then proceeded to occupy West Florida, and much of the war moved into West Florida during that time. If you want to know more about it, I actually do talk about the Civil War in Florida in one of my episodes in the podcast library. Apalachicola wasn't really heavily damaged, though. But Apalachicola is known for things other than the Civil War. Actually, one of the coolest things, though, is if you go back a few years before the Civil War, about 20 years, jumped too far ahead. 1849, Apalachicola physician John Gorey discovered the cold air process of refrigeration. That's right. In the Panhandle, Apalachicola, he's discovered refrigeration. He also patented the ice machine in 1850. Of course, he had to experiment to find ways to lower the body temperature of fever patients. Uh, and, in Florida, it gets hot, it stays hot. And he found these patents. And, of course, these patents laid the groundwork for modern refrigeration and even air conditioning. So this all happened in Apalachicola, and this made Florida and the South more livable year-round. So thank you, American physician John Gorey, who lived in Apalachicola. The city actually even has a monument to him and a replica of his ice machine on display in the John Gorey Museum in the town. You can also visit the John Gorey Memorial Bridge that actually carries out the main road out of Apalachicola, US 98. 98, dear Lord, what a traffic nightmare, is also named for him. And of course, before railroads reached the region in the late 1800s, Apalachicola was the third busiest port on the Gulf of Mexico, that is behind New Orleans and Mobile. Scheduled boats transporting passengers and goods up and down the Apalachicola, Chattahoochee, and Flint rivers to Albany and Columbus, Georgia, were busy daily. They even had paddle steamers. The paddle steamer Crescent City made daily trips to Carabel, which is also in Florida down the coast, carrying mail and passengers and freight. Now, they did finally get a railroad, the AN Railroad, formerly the Apalachicola National or Northern Railroad, actually served the city. It was originally built in 1935, and it was rebuilt in 1988. And of course, the John Gorey Memorial Bridge carries 98 across Apalachicola Bay to East Point, which is another part of Florida, kind of sits like across from Apalachicola. If you've ever looked at a map of the Panhandle, there's a lot of little parts of Florida that just kind of jet out, and then there's a lot of little barrier islands, if you're wondering why I'm talking about so many bridges. But Apalachicola is a really cool and unique part of Florida. It is located in the northwestern part of the state on Apalachicola Bay and at the mouth of Apalachicola River. The main highway is US 98. If you've ever traveled 98, you know that during spring break, morning rush hour, and evening rush hour, it is a nightmare crapshoot. Apalachicola really only sits about 60 miles from Panama City and about 75 miles from Tallahassee. So that's why we always joke that you're only about 60 miles from the beach when you're in Florida. It's only really about a 3-mile square town. It's not a huge town, but it has some amazing history behind it. It's a really, really beautiful place to visit. You can see some amazing sunsets there. Apalachicola is really, really known for its seafood. You can get some amazing seafood, especially during season. And it's still actually really known for that. It was always really known for its economy behind recreational fishing and then shrimp boats. In fact, more than 90% of Florida's oyster production is actually still harvested from Apalachicola Bay. Unfortunately, though, it's getting a little bit worse each year as the water flow in the Apalachicola River has kind of slowed down and pollution. But every year the town still hosts the Florida Seafood Festival, which is kind of really cool. It's a fun little festival. It's a 2-day event held in Apalachicola. It's in the first weekend of November. It's held in Battery Park, and usually about 25,000 to 30,000 people usually attend. It is also the oldest seafood festival in the state. It was actually started in 1963, and it was started as a way to get people to visit this tiny little town of Apalachicola. And in November, in Apalachicola, you're either getting snowbirds or nobody. After Labor Day, that the whole area of the Panhandle kind of just stops. It just stops. And the idea was really to bring back the old harbor days, which had been held in Apalachicola in 1915. And so they started the Florida Seafood Festival. And then they started also in 2010 the Florida Seafood Festival oyster shucking. So they also have that. The Seafood Festival celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2013. So it's kind of cool. There's like a little parade, carnival, blue crab races, oyster eating, oyster shucking contest. There's a road race. There's country music concerts, arts, crafts, local seafood. And of course, on Friday night at the festival, the King Restro Ball is held to crown a king and queen of the festival. And so that's just another fun thing that Apalachicola does, which is, it's cool that they do it in November, really, just to bring in people. And of course, the area is kind of well protected. I mean, it does get hit by hurricanes, but it's not, it's Florida. If you're on a shore, you're likely to still have a hurricane eventually. And they do have an artificial reef kind of off the shores. It's really pretty that's a beautiful area to visit the beach. I mean, most of the Gulf is a beautiful area with white sandy beaches and just absolutely crystal clear, beautiful water. You can't go wrong just to go sit on the beach there. The Apalachicola is also home to the Dixie Theater. And they do have performances there. It's an old theater with a great history. It's really just a cute town, guys. If you're looking for a beautiful town on the bay to have some great seafood or just to get away and to enjoy oneself, Apalachicola is probably one of the best places I can think of in the Panhandle. It's, maybe an hour and a half from Pensacola, maybe 2 hours from Tallahassee, depending on traffic. And it's about 4.5 hours from Jacksonville. So, if you're looking for something with a little bit of history, like I said, it does have the Trinity Episcopal Church, which is on the U.S. National Register of Historic Places, that you can still see today. It's a really cool old church that was originally prefabricated. Still stands today. If you're looking for some great seafood, if you're looking for a cool seafood festival in November, if you're looking to see a great sunset, or if you're just looking for a place to relax, I definitely recommend checking out Apalachicola. Now, you will meet some nice people. You will meet other tourists, and you will also probably meet Florida Man, as they do inhabit the Panhandle as well. I don't know where this week's Florida Man comes from, but all I know is that during a fight, he threw a bologna sandwich. Yes, that's right. Florida Man got mad and threw a bologna sandwich. He went to take back his PlayStation, and he threw a bologna sandwich at someone. I mean, I guess anything can truly be used as a weapon, guys. I don't know. I don't know that I would ever thought to throw a bologna sandwich. Nor would I have ever wanted to eat bologna. Anyways, to each his own. I hope you guys have enjoyed learning about another small town in Florida. Maybe it's your next weekend road trip. Or your next vacation spot. There's a couple other little small towns around that area that I'll, get to eventually to talk about on the podcast. If you do have a suggestion, email me, thatfloridafeel@gmail.com. If you're looking for a different topic I've talked about, check out the podcast library. If you're looking to listen to a new podcast, check out Unfiltered Studios. Great people doing great things over there. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Don't forget to drink your water. Be nice to one another. Wear your sunscreen. And as always, guys, that's your daily dose of sunshine.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.